What is up, Game of Thrones fans, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the final episode and the final episode review that I will be doing for this series, obviously, because it's the last episode. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it feels weird to be saying that. I feel like the last however many years of my life, this chapter has come to an end. We have been watching this show for so long, and to finally get to that end point that we have been working towards for so long, it's an odd feeling. I have an eerie feeling right now, but that's just what comes with the territory for a finale of a show or a movie or whatever it is that we love. We love celebrating the end and what was with the show that a lot of people loved up until the last few seasons, and it did get very divisive. And I want to thank you guys so much for last week. I did have a lot of negativity in the comments, a few people telling me to kill myself, and you know, that was fun. But overall, some of the discussion that I saw in the comments section, it was actually very constructive, and some of you guys who commented actually made me think more about things. Didn't necessarily change my opinions on certain matters, but did sway me one direction or the other. So I appreciate you guys leaving the comments on last week's episode, but we're talking the series finale of Game of Thrones, and let's talk about it. So in the aftermath of the devastating attack on King's Landing, Daenerys must face the survivors. And like I said, guys, it has been a crazy last 7 days. Everyone has been either on one side of the fence or the other, completely heated or completely loving it. I've not seen too many people on the fence, mostly because they probably just don't want to speak up in the midst of the madness. Listen, you are passionate about the show. I love seeing passion from the fans. It does get overboard when you are cursing at other people and telling them to do things that maybe you shouldn't tell them to do, but I do like seeing passion, and that's the testament to what Game of Thrones has done for us so far. Listen, I told you guys last week, I have never read the book, so I have an attachment to these characters because of the show, and the fact that we love this show so much, and it is pissing off so many people this season, is because they built up this show so well, so cinematically. It has done things for television that no other show has ever done before, and we have to respect that. Those who say, well, now I hate everything about Game of Thrones from beginning to end just because I didn't like the last few episodes, I think that's complete nonsense. Just because you don't like decisions being made right now, that doesn't mean you have to go back and bash what we loved about the first few seasons. So Austin, stop talking. What'd you think about this episode? You know what? There were some decisions made in this episode, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have to be honest. I didn't love them. I did not love where certain characters ended up. Now, cinematically, visually, like I said last week, it was a beautiful episode to look at. Some of the best cinematography of the entire season, especially those final few moments with our characters, following them through the tunnels. It was just gorgeous to watch with the music swelling. Sure, it may have been lasting a bit too long, but we want to talk about the story, and let's start at the beginning of the episode because that's what we're here to do. And really the first thing I want to talk about is Cersei and Jaime. I said last week, I'm not the biggest fan of where Jaime ended up, and after thinking about it more, Jaime's character arc was really my biggest problem with last week's episode, just because, and here's the issue I have with this season has felt so rushed. I think some of the decisions that were made could have been better handled by certain fans if we got more episodes. Why do we only have 6 episodes? If we would have had a 10-episode season, I think maybe even 2 episodes of seeing Dany do what she did and build a bit more to make her decision, fine. But in Jaime's case, I don't think Jaime's arc was rushed. I just think Jaime's arc came back around to who he was in season 1, and him being one of my favorite characters of the entire series. The fact you can make me like Jaime, a character who pushed a kid out of a window, and then he goes and does what he does in the previous episode. I just did not love that. And a lot of people were saying on Twitter, there is no way they are both dead. I'm like, okay, I could buy that. Maybe they're both not dead and then they're laying there dead. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that they're both dead. They were crushed by rocks. And that's another thing I saw a lot of people complaining about. That's how Cersei went out? After all of this buildup, you're going to kill her in that way? I don't necessarily have a problem with killing her in that way. I just wanted more from Cersei this season. She got paid like $1 million an episode just to kind of stand there menacingly and watching. She didn't get a lot of dialogue. She didn't get a lot to work with. Her character, even though she has been built up very well over the last few seasons, this season, not a lot to do, and then they took her out, and it was kind of over. And then Dany kind of proves to me that she has gone mad with power. She literally says, women and children have suffered, and they will suffer no more because I'm going to go through and basically take out all of the people kind of like I did here, except what you did here in the prior episode, you were kind of killing some of the women and the children, those same people that you're telling us you're going to save in all of these other places. And I get it, because this is a place full of wretched scum, if you want to speak in Star Wars terms, but I did not like the fact that she turned in that way and she killed all of those innocent people when she's telling us right here, hey, we're going to save these people. You didn't do that in the last episode. So you have her speech, and then you have Tyrion go up to her, rip the pin off his chest, and I actually really like this decision, and throw it down saying, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I am no longer supporting you in all of your endeavors, because your endeavors were completely ridiculous in the last episode. And I kept rooting for Jon to just come around. Jon, what are you doing, man? You have seen everything you have needed to see. Why do you continue to defend her? And I think in the back of his mind, and we figure this out a little bit later, he was defending her, but he was just doing it because he knew what he had to do, and he knew his decision was going to change the course of history. Also, the conversation between he and Tyrion, I was kind of laughing, sitting there thinking and watching. This is literally the conversation that so many fans are having online right now, the debate, because one character sees the evil in her, and the other character's like, no, she's not that bad. I mean, she did what she had to do. And here's the thing that I think a lot of people are going to hate about this episode, and it is Jon being the one who takes out Dany. He is the one that killed her. And the second she said they don't get to choose, restricting the power from the people that she is going to rule, you could see it in Jon's face. And I turned to my wife and I said, this is when I think Jon is about to kill her. And sure enough, you hear the blade go in, and he did what a lot of people anticipated, what some people did not anticipate. I sure didn't see that decision coming until he made that face. And I said, is Jon really going to do this? And I look on Twitter, and apparently that's what leaked online. These leaks have become accurate, and he is the one that took down the Mad Queen at this point. And my goodness, guys, a lot of people, and I see why you hate it. I completely understand, because it is such a crazy way for her character to go out after all they have been through together. But you know what? In terms of character development, where they are, whether you like what they have done in the past or not, where those characters were at that moment, I think he had to do it. Because even though the entire season I've been sitting here going, Jon, what are you doing, man? Why do you keep going back to her? She's clearly losing her mind. That made sense. For him to kill her right there, that was the only decision I believe they had to make because of where they have written those characters to this point. Some people may not love that decision, which is going to lower your enjoyment of the episode, because that's a big thing. If you're not on board for that, you probably didn't like the finale. And that's the thing about that decision, is that's the big thing about this episode. Everything else is just kind of wrapping up storylines and characters having conversations with each other. I think vital and integral conversations for where the writing led us to in this episode, but for me, I think some of it was just dragged out a bit too long, especially when you get into the final 5 or 10 minutes. It's just a lot of shots of people walking, and I get it, it's trying to be epic, it's trying to end off these characters on the perfect note, but if you are not on board with where these stories are at this point, then you don't care. You're just sitting there rolling your eyes like, okay, I didn't like this decision. Why are these characters walking so slow? Wrap it up. We're wrapping up however many years of my life at this point, and I'm upset. That's the thing. I see why a lot of people are upset by this episode, because the ultimate decision was to make Bran the king. They did the thing that I did not necessarily want them to do, because Bran has been this character the entire season, and you look at his development throughout all of the seasons, and I understand why they did what they did at this point, but I did not like the decision because I've just not been a big fan of him sitting there the whole time and I'm just letting you all kill each other because I know I will end up on the throne. It's like, I get you couldn't tell them that you were going to be on the throne, but come on, man. You knew you were going to end up here, and you just let people slaughter each other. Could you not just, give a minor hint as to what was going to happen? Now, I did like Tyrion's role in that decision because I just really liked his speech. I thought the way that, and it's probably Peter Dinklage's performance for me. This guy, Another Emmy nomination is in the cards because he was so good in this season, especially in this episode. Whether you like where his character was at or not, I'm talking strictly performance. And Peter Dinklage is the best actor in that show for me. He is my favorite character. Wouldn't have been opposed to even him being on the throne, but not Bran. I don't know how to feel about Bran at this point. I'm going to have to sit and marinate on the decision making, maybe go back and watch the entire series again and just see, okay, now that we know where this is going to end, what did you plant here and here and here to make him the appropriate choice as the new leader of all of these people? I liked what Brienne did for Jaime. It was the appropriate decision to make her write something in good vein instead of... I liked what Brienne did for Jaime. It was a nice decision to have her respectfully write things about him, even after the decision that he made, breaking her heart in the process. That's just her character, the integrity built up. That is one character that they did not botch. So then we have Arya on her new quest, and that brings up a good point. I wanted Arya to have more to do in this episode. And I know she's had episodes devoted to her this season, whatever, but she needed more. What was up with the horse in the last episode? I had a good theory that Bran could have possibly been controlling the horse, and that wasn't the case. Also, Bran, he's the leader now, and I'm still thinking about it, and it's making me more upset the more I think about it. I don't like it. Sansa is now Queen of the North, which I kind of saw that coming too, especially when they made Bran the head of everything, like, you the boss now. And I will admit, it was kind of cool seeing his table, everyone gathered around it. It's characters that we know, that we love. We have Sam, we have Tyrion, we have pretty much the entire crew just sitting there and making decisions. That was cool to see. And I'm not opposed to the idea of democracy, because here's the thing about putting someone on the Iron Throne. Someone is always going to disagree with that person on the Iron Throne, and in my opinion, there is always going to be war if there's one person in charge, because there's always a group of people, there's always someone that does not agree. You can look at people who love Game of Thrones, hate Game of Thrones, even if everyone loved this season, they thought it was the best season ever, there is always someone that is going to disagree, and in this case, that someone could have been somebody who went after the person on the Iron Throne. So the idea of democracy, it was not far-fetched, and it went along with what they were posing throughout the entire season. They've kind of been building to this moment, and when Drogon took out the Iron Throne, he said, nope, no more, we're not going through this again. You want a sequel series? Too bad you're not getting it. It's now Democracy of Thrones. Game of Democracy. I don't know what I'm saying. It's late, I'm tired, I'm afraid to look in the comments section, because everybody's gonna say mean things. And then Jon Snow. Back at the wall. Another decision that I don't know if I'm on board with. I don't love it. I get why they had to do it, because he's the one that took out Dany, and by doing that, you have so many people that want his head on a platter, so you had to make a decision there, but just the decision to put him at the wall where he was, it's like taking his character from where he is here and placing him back a few seasons. I feel like that's what they did with Jaime in a way. They took where he was and they just brought him all the way back, and I just did not love seeing him there. Even though everyone was clearly looking up to him, they saw Jon Snow, you are our leader now in your own way, but that decision was another one for me. I didn't know if I was on board with it. But I did like seeing that love for Ghost in there. That's what we all wanted a few episodes ago, and that was nice. Very heartwarming moment, and this episode was full of heartwarming moments. I don't think it was as bad as a lot of people anticipated it to be. Austin, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Just let me finish. I don't think it was as bad or as crazy as some people predicted, unless you read the leaks, because clearly they seem to be true. But it's just the way that they wrapped up certain storylines. I don't know if I was all there. I don't know if I loved all of the decisions made in this episode, in the final few episodes. And like I said, my biggest flaw with this season is that there were not enough episodes. It was rushed. And even if you love this season and you love every single decision made, you can, in its own weird way, look at it and say, you know what? I don't think 6 episodes were enough. Maybe if we would have gotten more time with Dany to develop into what she was at the end of the season, or more time with Jon Snow, maybe seeing more confliction in him instead of just, oh, I have to be there for her, even though she's doing this and I don't like it, I still have to be there for her. And enough time to give Jaime one line of dialogue to say, I'm going back to kill Cersei instead of going back to be with Cersei. Clearly, he was going back to be with her. I wanted him to go back to kill her. I did not like that decision at all. Still stuck in the last episode, clearly. Austin, this video is 40 minutes long. When are you going to stop talking? It's the series, finale. There's just a lot of things to hash out because I'm so conflicted on certain decisions and certain elements that were thrown into this episode, that was thrown into this season. There's just a lot to hash out, guys, but in its own weird way, that's the beauty of Game of Thrones. It gets people talking. It may be in the worst case possible, but it's better than a show that comes out and doesn't make a cultural impact. Game of Thrones has always been that show for me, and just because I didn't love decisions made in this season does not mean I look back on the thing as a whole and say, you know what, Game of Thrones is the worst show I've ever seen, because even the worst season of Game of Thrones is significantly better than really good seasons of other mediocre shows, and that is a testament to this show and where it has been in our hearts for all these years, and now it's over, guys. That was the series finale. And once again, I know there are a lot of divisive opinions on this episode, for sure, on this season. I truly appreciate you guys watching this video, coming along with me on this journey. We're going to get more things in the Game of Thrones universe. That is confirmed. We're getting more shows. I would love to continue to talk about those. I would love to continue to watch new shows on HBO because they're going to have to find a show to fill that gap. And if you guys want one, I will do a full season review, even though this was kind of a full season review, and talk in even more detail, but I'm not going to do that unless you guys stick around, subscribe, everything you have to do, and ask for that Game of Thrones coverage. I appreciate you guys watching this video. You're looking at a fan who has an outlet. He just wanted to sit down and talk about his thoughts on this final episode. I appreciate you guys watching this video, everything that you do for me, and I will catch you very soon.